So a special welcome this morning to the Honourable Penelope Beckles, the Minister of Planning and Development, the Honourable Marvin Gonzalez, the Minister of Public Utilities, Mrs. Penelope Bradshaw-Niles, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, His Excellency Peter Cavendish, the EU Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, all the other ambassadors and excellencies and members of the diplomatic corps, representatives of all of the international agencies who are here, Robert LaHunt, the Executive Director for Trinidad and Tobago at the Inter-American Development Bank, senior civil servants. I want to perhaps call up particularly Kishan Kumar Singh's Chief Negotiator for Trinidad and the UNFCCC, and Hayden Romano from the Environmental Management Authority, members of the Energy Chamber, members of my board, Mr. Mark Lukwan, and let me also recognize Mr. Joseph Khan, the Chairman of the National Gas Company, other members of the Energy Chamber, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to this very special session today. And as the CEO of the Energy Chamber, I'm delighted to be here working with the EU delegation and the government of Trinidad and Tobago to release this very important report on the development of wind power in Trinidad and Tobago. For those of you who don't know, the Energy Chamber is the trade association representing the energy sector in Trinidad and Tobago. So when I joined the Chamber 2 decades ago, that really basically meant oil, gas, and petrochemicals. But the world has changed, and so has the Energy Chamber as well. So now getting the right legal, fiscal, policy environment for the rapid development of renewable sources of energy is now a key advocacy objective for the Energy Chamber. Increasing investments into renewable energy is vital if Trinidad and Tobago is to meet our international obligations, to contribute to addressing global greenhouse gas emissions under the UNFCCC, 3 Cs. The Energy Chamber is committed to playing our part in helping reduce greenhouse gas emissions from electricity generation, from the industrial sector, the petrochemical sector, and from transportation, where we see electrification is likely to play a key role in coming decades. But increasing investment in renewables is not just important because of our commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It might at first seem slightly counterintuitive, but increasing investment in renewables relates directly to 2 of our 5 major advocacy areas for securing the future of the gas industry as well. So those 2 areas are firstly bringing renewable energy sources helps divert natural gas away from being burnt in turbines to generate electricity to the wealth-creating, foreign exchange-earning petrochemical and LNG sectors. The more electricity we can generate from renewables, the more natural gas we can deliver to Point Lisas to produce ammonia, methanol, and all the other chemicals, or to deliver to Atlantic in Point Fortin to deliver to export markets as LNG. I should add as well that LNG plays an important global climate change and security role by offsetting coal-fired power generation and by helping our friends and partners in Europe in particular reduce their reliance on natural gas from Russia in the aftermath of the invasion of Ukraine. I should add that in addition to introducing renewables, energy efficiency has a huge role to play in reducing the volumes of natural gas being used in electricity generation. The current electricity rate review proposals should be addressed, understood in that context. I should just say that one of the worrying trends for the country is that over the past decade, consumption of electricity in the residential sector has increased by 31%, while the industrial sector, it has decreased by 20%. When you consider that the residential sector does not generate wealth in GDP or Forex, while the industrial sector does, that is obviously a worrying trend and demonstrates that the cross subsidies that we provide people with cheap electricity is not sustainable. The percentage of our natural gas going into electricity generation has increased from around 7% in 2010 to almost 10% last year. That's a trend which we must reverse and will be done by a combination both of renewables and energy efficiency. The second reason why we want to see investment into renewable energy is that renewables can play an important role in reducing the carbon intensity of our commodities. Lower carbon LNG and lower carbon petrochemicals will be able to command better access to markets and premium prices. The carbon border adjustment mechanisms, or CBAMs, being introduced by the European Union and potentially by other people in the future as well, means that it's an economic imperative to reduce the carbon footprint of our commodities, especially ammonia in the first instance. Otherwise, those commodities could face high border taxes in the EU markets. The introduction of renewable sources of energy, and in particular the availability of green hydrogen produced from water and green electrons, is vital to the long-term sustainability of our petrochemical industry. So just for completeness, let me just mention the other three major advocacy areas for securing the future of our natural gas industry. Firstly, to speed up the approval process, to reduce the time taken to get from a bid round to first gas production, and hence significantly improve project economics. Secondly, to reform the fiscal regime to encourage new investment in both oil and gas. And finally, to get the framework in place that will allow us to import natural gas from our neighbors, in particular Venezuela in the first instance. But today the focus is very much on renewables. We've recently seen some great progress in solar electricity generation with the start of the construction of what will be the biggest solar plant in the Caribbean, with investments from BP and from Shell. There are other small-scale solar projects also in construction, including, I think we must mention today, the EU-funded project at the airport as well. We've noticed that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Public Utilities, their recent comments about getting in place the legislative amendments that will allow that sector of small-scale solar, small-scale renewables to flourish. Minister Gonzalez, you have our full support to do whatever is necessary to bring that long overdue change into reality. There's a huge amount of pent-up investment waiting to be released if we can get that into place. So that is in part why we chose the theme for our upcoming Caribbean Sustainable Energy Conference in June. We chose the theme from ideas to action, because there is a investment there waiting to be released. So small-scale solar, we think, has great potential, but the reality is that even grid-scale solar and the small-scale solar is constrained by land availability on an island like Trinidad. So, I mean, rooftop solar can play an important role, but given the huge demand for energy and green electrons for green hydrogen in particular, we're going to quickly run out of land space, and we're going to run up against the limits of land availability, which brings us to the topic of today, wind power, because obviously it takes up a lot less land. So onshore wind has a good potential, as I think we'll see in the reports in the first instance, and we'll be able to provide a lot of energy that we require. But scaling up is going to mean going offshore as well, just like happened with the oil and gas industry. I'm very excited about the possibility. I'm eagerly looking forward to hear the details of the work that has been carried out by the EU-funded team on behalf of the government and people of Trinidad and Tobago.